I am back with my webcam quality, so I'm sorry. I still didn't set up my camera. This is another episode I'm watching live, so this is the same situation as last week. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time to watch this episode, so I basically have to watch it now as I'm recording this. This is actually I think a day later than it aired. And I'm scheduled to be on another episode of the Maclunkey Squadron podcast talking about this episode. Unfortunately, so as of recording this, I don't want to promise that I'm on that episode. So you could check it out right now. I may or may not be on there. I did like last week's episode. I think it might have been my favorite one. In terms of this show, being a comedy and going in expecting that. And, going into the show with very little expectations. The jokes in the trailers didn't really land for me. The CGI didn't look great. The show just didn't look great in general from the trailers that I've watched. Going in with that low expectations, I'm very much impressed with the show. The quality, at least. But it's not like my favorite MCU project out there. But I am enjoying it. But the last episode, I feel like the jokes hit a lot better. I was laughing a lot more in the episode. I thought it was a much more fun episode. Not to take away from Madison from the episode before, because I thought she was a funny character too. But I'm hoping for another great episode for this one. We got that Daredevil tease at the end. From what I've seen on social media, I'm not on social media as much as I have been even a year ago. But I do need to check it every once in a while. And I tried to avoid the Marvel spoilers as much as I can, but they show up on my trending because Twitter knows what I want to see. And from what I gather, I might be disappointed if I'm expecting a Daredevil episode, this one. There's a lot of hype for this one being the Daredevil episode. So, yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't watch this one with my brother like I usually do. We just didn't have a time to schedule it to watch it together. And I need to watch it before the podcast if I am going to be on the podcast. So I have to watch it now. So I have not watched it yet. This is not a second viewing and, rewatch kind of critical analysis of what's going on, looking at stuff in the background. Although, I'll probably still do that. This is a genuine first time watch and reaction, which I never really planned to do these, but I've already explained why I'm doing this in the video series, so you've probably seen the other episodes by now if you're watching this far in. So yeah, let's get into episode 6 of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. This one's called Just Jen. I will say I find myself getting a little bit too heated and just talking a lot in these recordings, so I'm going to try to keep it shorter because I realize after the end of my recording how long I've been talking. And having not edited the past several episodes yet, I know there's going to be a lot of editing that I'm going to have to be doing. So I'm going to try to save myself some work and just do my reaction and then as brief of thoughts as I can at the end of the episode. I did see from a tease. Oh my god, that got me for a second. I did see from a tease that this is going to be a wedding episode.
Look at the dress that Luke made me.
Wait, he's making her dresses now too?
How do you say no to being a bridesmaid?
You just say no.
I don't think you say no if you're asked to be a bridesmaid.
Yes, it's a self-contained wedding episode, and if you think this is happening at an inconvenient time in the season, you're right, because that's how weddings always are.
Is very true. Is very true. Wait, she went to the wedding as She-Hulk. Yeah, that was a moment from the trailers.
I can't believe you're doing this to me.
What?
Taking all the attention away from me with your...
Yeah.
No one's gonna be looking at me. All eyes are gonna be on you. It's your big day.
What? Okay, but that's... Jen, no. Yeah, well, you kind of saw her confidence was gone, the past few episodes. So I don't blame her, but don't show up the bride
I'm sorry, Joe. You'll find someone. Don't feel bad.
Oh, I don't feel bad.
That's right. You know what? You still have a little bit of time. Lulu, Team
What?
Edward or Jacob? Oh my, let it rest.
Okay, I don't like her. Why is she here?
He invited me.
She's wearing earrings that say boss.
Titania.
Hey girl, hey!
You made it. You're so busy though.
Okay, now I really hate her.
No, she has weaseled her way into this wedding to mess with me. That is
Jen.
so obvious. Why does nobody else see that?
Jen, just leave. I feel like she should just leave. Wait, he married all these people? Make her do stuff like this all the time.
So you're on ironing duty, right?
I am?
Yeah, go bride spot. Thank you so much. Amazing.
Okay.
Jen.
Jen,
Your husband is here.
leave.
Jen, you're so lucky. Look who you get to walk down the aisle with.
These girls are not your
We just had
friend.
to resuscitate him this morning.
Jonathan. Of course.
Oh, that's Jonathan.
I still have all those Apple shares I bought in 1981, plus all the gold left to me by my first wife, Baroness Cromwell. How about we split it evenly 8 ways and call it a day?
Why should she get the same amount as me? Because I had a kid with this fool.
Why should we be punished for her mistake?
My son is not a mistake. You use the word mistake.
Yo, what's going on, my party people?
Chad!
It's
Yeah!
your boy, DJ Incredible Hulk!
Incredible Hulk?
Of course.
Man, this wedding sucks. Puking. Can't hold her liquor. Which is not She-Hulk. Oh no. Oh, this.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
I am not obsessed with you.
Kinda are.
Although it seems like everyone else is.
Okay, just this one time I turned She-Hulk.
No, don't humor her. Could've just punched her. Take it outside. Oh, that was anticlimactic.
She-Hulk is at my wedding.
Yeah.
I love you so much.
Wait, is she drunk?
Whoa, huge boobs. Yeah, they're big. Okay, huge boobs. Congrats. Whatever.
What? What is happening this episode?
Accepted. Hashtag friends with bros.
What is this site?
These idiots.
Cancel She-Hulk. Is this like
Oh. This is... What? What is this? Mal, how do we kill She-Hulk? This is dark. We gotta talk to Jen.
No.
this is like a Proud Boys private Discord thing.
Nikki, they're just trolls.
Any attention at all gives them what they want.
No, you're a lawyer. This is all evidence. So there's a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists that are trying to kill her. Or like anti-superhuman people. I don't know. Is this the leader? Okay, this is the wrecking crew. Because it's the needle. Or that's their weapons or whatever they were given. Or needles. I don't know what the hell was happening this episode. That's it. No post credit. So another week without one. Okay, yeah, that was I'll be honest. I didn't like a lot about that episode. I think it was honestly it's probably the worst episode of the season. I don't know how I feel about the episode cuz there was moments where I did laugh, but I think for the most part it was I don't think it was the best. I'm usually a defender of Marvel stuff. I usually say that even the stuff people consider bad, bad by MCU standards, I think is still pretty good. And like I didn't hate the episode, but it wasn't the best episode. It's definitely the worst of the series. And I've said this on the Maclunkey podcast, but it takes a lot for me to hate something. There's like very few movies I can recall where I said, yeah, I hate this movie. Like even bad movies. I mean, watch our podcast, Hit Pause MCU, for my thoughts on Morbius. Okay, well, let's stick with the Sony Marvel movies as an example. Venom Let There Be Carnage is one of very few movies that I would consider a bad movie that I would never want to watch again. You know, I hate bringing up that comparison, but like this episode of She-Hulk, nowhere close to that level of bad. I would watch this episode again. It's not my favorite thing, but it's definitely like low tier Marvel in my opinion. Which again doesn't mean bad. You know, from my standards in Marvel, it's bad for MCU standards. I don't know if I'm making any sort of sense there. What I'm saying is this is not my favorite thing I've seen from Marvel. It's low tier. It's you know, like one of the worst things I've seen from Marvel. Not that I think it's bad, but it's like bottom of the list. This episode in particular. But there's so much about the episode, like just not like quality aside or like ranking aside, like how good it was compared to the rest of the series or whatever else we've seen from Marvel. But just like context aside for the story, I was confused on a lot of stuff. But even that I'm gonna put aside for a second there. We'll get back to that in a moment. The characters, I hated every character in this episode except for Nikki. Nikki was great, and Mallory, she was great too. So those characters, you do a good job. I'll even throw a bone to DJ Ched or Incredible. Every other character I hated. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you a dick? Why are you going along with people bullying you? Why are you here at this wedding for a petty grudge match against this woman? Like I hated everybody's attitude, thought process, any sort of decision making in this episode. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Like, I don't know. So Titania's goal was to crash this wedding that she found out that Jen was going to. Also, she's somehow a friend of somebody in the wedding. Sure, let's just go with that. So she wants to crash the wedding and make Jen look bad, which would such a stupid plan, but also equally as stupid. Jen went along with it. And even more stupid than both of those things put together, the established reason why her friend, who is not her friend, told her not to Hulk out at her wedding. When she does it, when she's at the wedding, she does it, causes destruction, interrupts the entire wedding. They actually fought inside the place where everybody was in, not outside. Like, they didn't take the fight outside. When that actually happened, she's like, oh my god, I'm so happy you did this. So I didn't understand any of that. I didn't like the superhuman guy. I did not really care about that whole side story, to be honest. The only sort of like actual progression of the main story we got is, you know, like establishing Titania is going to be a thorn in She-Hulk's side throughout this episode or throughout this show, which I think we kind of already understood by this point, even though she hasn't really been in the show for the most part, other than these past two episodes. We got a little bit more of a peek at some sort of lab that's obsessed with She-Hulk and getting her blood, but no real like hints or indication as to who these people are. But they seem to be recruiting extremist violent group that's like sort of like a play on like the Proud Boys and those like extremist right-wing conspiracy groups that have like private discords where they talk about like murdering people or causing riots or destruction. That I don't know if you're watching this, if you're aware of that, but that's like a huge issue in, I guess, a lot of parts of the world because their hateful message has spread. If we're getting political here, but I think that is absolutely like a play on those like kinds of groups of people that we've seen spun out of primarily the U.S. over the past presidential administration. Which, I don't know, side tangent here. I said I wasn't going to do this, but recently discovered, I probably might go into this more on our podcast at some point if there's time for this discussion, because I just find it interesting. So in the MCU, if you're just following like who, like when these stories take place and who is president at this time. So in the MCU, President Obama only had one term. He didn't get the second term. The second term, he was replaced by President Ellis. And then President Ellis, so if you don't know who President Ellis is, he was in Iron Man 3. He was like the guy who the Mandarin like tied to the thing in the Iron Patriot armor tried to kill. And then President Ellis was replaced by Donald Trump. So Donald Trump was the US president for the MCU, which we haven't really seen in actually any of the like Marvel Studio stuff as far as I recall. But if we're keeping the Netflix and Marvel TV shows canon, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Defender saga, there has been like some subtle implications that Trump was president during this period of time. And then he's been replaced by not Joe Biden. There's a new guy, I can't remember his name, but he's going to be showing up in Secret Wars. No, not Secret Wars. Secret Invasion. He's going to be showing up in Secret Invasion. So we're going to be meeting the new MCU president soon. So side tangent aside, let's get back to the main point of this episode. So the Wrecking Crew, I'm assuming they're trying to implicate that these guys are part of this private web page of people who want to kill superheroes or She-Hulk in general, or I wouldn't put it past Marvel to do this, superpowered women. I don't know. It's just all we know is that there's this dark web. Wait, did they say that the Impervio guy, whatever his name is, he was part of the intelligentsia? That was the name? I'm not familiar with like intelligentsia from the comics, so I don't know if that's like a thing. I have no idea. But so that superhero guy was part of the group. He seemed very misogynistic. I don't know if that. I guess that might fit. If that's like a thing, they hate superpowered women. Maybe. I honestly don't know what the angle is for the intelligentsia, other than that it seems to be a parody of these real world extremist groups. They're not like outright saying that, but it kind of follows like a similar pattern and look. I might be totally wrong though. Maybe this is just like something else. I have no idea. Again, there wasn't like any like clear answers, and I was very confused by this whole episode. I didn't find it very funny. I did laugh at a few jokes, but compared to last episode, this is like a huge like drop in the show for sure. That was episode 6, I think it was. I said it was episode 6. Yeah, we're at 6 episodes. And honestly, like I know they made a joke of it at the beginning of the show. Hey, this wedding episode came out of nowhere, and that's exactly what weddings are like. Like, yes, I get that. I understand the joke, but this did seem like it was thrown in there like for no reason. Like even just like thinking about like what really was the purpose of this episode, and the only thing was establishing the intelligentsia, I guess, which we still don't really know much about. And I guess this was to showcase Jen being like, I don't know, trying to gain her confidence back and maybe realizing or accepting that She-Hulk is the one, the side of her that's getting the attention. So she wants to parade that around, even though she doesn't like being She-Hulk. She likes being She-Hulk at certain aspects of her life, where she sees like everybody loves She-Hulk. So yeah, she wants to show that off on a wedding, saying like, look how great I'm doing as She-Hulk. Where she hasn't had any of that sort of confidence boost as Jen since she became She-Hulk. So her like confidence is like super low as a result. Her like self-esteem and everything is just like in the shadow of She-Hulk. And then showing that new character, just trying to like build her up, like, hey, Jen is pretty awesome too, not just She-Hulk. But they like barely covered that, and it wasn't all that clear. Like Titania like punching her in the face, saying like, no, I'm here because I want to fight She-Hulk. And then Jen saying like, okay, fine, let's do this. Instead of saying like, no, like her saying like, why are you obsessed with me, was a great question, because Titania is clearly obsessed with her. She made an entire brand of beauty products that were called She-Hulk. And then she just gave in and then gave her what she wanted. I feel like Jen had the upper hand there and would have said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not entertaining you. Go get a life and leave this wedding. And then again, they like any sort of like redeeming factor about that character, like realizing that about herself. Like, no, she doesn't have to entertain this bully. Flipped it and said, okay, well, now she's entertaining this bully. And as a side effect, now her friend is going to hate her because she's like, oh, you promised you wouldn't do this one thing and you did it. And then that friend is like, oh my God, I can't believe you did it. This is amazing. And I'm like, so what's the purpose of this episode? This is such a filler episode. The small little additions to this universe and to the story were so insignificant. The main story made no sense and was just, I feel like it was just badly written. The side story, I could not give a crap about. Like, that guy's story was not interesting in the least bit. The only interest I really had in this episode is what's going on with, like, not even the intelligentsia. I don't give a shit about the intelligentsia. Because it's like, it seems like it could be like a cut and dry situation. These are just like idiots who are like obsessed with not wanting superpowered people, or at the very least superpowered women in this world. And they're extremists and they want to kill this person. But the real thing is, look, are the wrecking crew part of the intelligentsia, which I think they're insinuating that they are? How did they get these Asgardian construction tools and stuff? But really, like, who's supplying them? Who's paying them? Who's enabling their weird, sick obsession for their ultimate goal of, which seems like getting She-Hulk's blood? But even that, they're like, okay, these guys are in a lab. They wear surgical gloves and they have big needles. Great. That's the information I needed right now. That's great. I've been enjoying the show so far, but this I'm hoping the show picks back up in the next episode, because we only have 3 more episodes, I think. Yeah, there's only 3 more episodes. We have not seen Daredevil, although it was made clear that we're only going to get 1 episode of Daredevil. I don't imagine Daredevil is going to show up in the finale. So really, it's going to be next episode or the episode after that. And my money is going to be on the next episode, because in typical Marvel fashion, we can probably expect the 8th episode is going to be like some sort of like clarity for the character, or some sort of like redemption thing where they like realize who they are, what they need to do, or who they need to be. And then the final episode is some sort of like big end battle where she's actually going to go toe to toe with Titania, or whoever the big bad is, because I don't think like Titania is going to be like the ultimate bad guy at the end. Like, we still don't really know who this person is. We're just getting teases at 6 episodes in, so who knows? So we might see like some big CGI fight in the last episode, like we typically get from Marvel. I don't know. I have no clue where the show is going. I have no clue how it's going to end. I don't know what the purpose of the show is, where the end game is, because we know from all the other shows, WandaVision, we know was leading somewhere. Moon Knight, we knew was going to be like this, probably a battle of the gods, which we kind of got. And I can go on and on about like the other shows as well. But this show, it's like, okay, she's a lawyer. She has superpowers. There's a different case every week. There's like this fun little comedy show about her life. Something secretive's happening in the background, but we don't know why or really where it's going or what the end thing is going to be. Because the only sort of like world building that we have established in the MCU that would make sense for She-Hulk is the leader maybe wanting the She-Hulk's blood, because he worked with Bruce's blood back in the Incredible Hulk, and he said like how much great work that they can do with his blood, and maybe he's like obsessed, and because the Hulk was out of reach for him for so long, and now there's this new person, She-Hulk, who has a pretty settled life and is easy to find, that maybe has like a new avenue for this goal that he has, whatever it is. Aside from that, there's like no other indication in the world of the Marvel Universe on who this person might be. And I don't even have context from the comics. I have no idea. So my mind is blank, and this is really bad because it's 6 episodes in, and it's like, why am I watching the show? I'm watching it for the comedy and the laughs, but for the overall purpose of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I don't know. And you might say, Till, that's not necessarily a bad thing because Moon Knight. You know, I think a lot of people have polarizing views about Moon Knight. Like, a lot of people loved it, a lot of people hated it, and I'm shocked it has such differing views from people on the show. Like, some people really hate Moon Knight, and some people love it. Like, I think it might be my brother's favorite MCU show because he loved that show. He thought it was really well done. I really liked it. I got what I wanted out of Moon Knight, and I was like, I really wanted to see a Moon Knight show, or honestly, I wanted to see a Moon Knight movie. I wasn't like a huge fan of the character. I understood who the character was and had like an idea of the character. I've seen him in a lot of like crossover comics, and I've always thought that that would be a character that would play well with live action, would have a cool story, and I was right. And it was, or at least in my point of view, I thought the show was really well done, and I got what I wanted out of that character, and I was satisfied with it. But the point of Moon Knight was that it's a huge contrast to She-Hulk. It's a show that could honestly not exist in the MCU, and still you could still watch the show. There's like no sort of tie-ins. There's a couple of small references that I feel like most people have missed. There's 2 that I can think of. And when you bring it up, you're like, oh, really? I didn't catch that. So really, the show stood on its own. It was a much more serious tone and did not call back to the MCU at all. So like you can say it for the same thing about She-Hulk. Like, it doesn't have to have some sort of like intricate world building with the rest of the MCU. The problem is that's not what we've seen from the show so far. So it's a big difference from Moon Knight. It's a half-hour comedy that heavily references the MCU. It's so established in the MCU. It makes fun of the MCU. It's very satirical. It points out some ridiculousness of the whole universe. But it is a very well-established show. So I feel like even though it is a comedy and it's making fun of the world that it's in, the fact that it is paying attention to the MCU and it's utilizing the MCU so heavily in the series that there has to be some sort of reason for the show to exist. There has to be some sort of end in sight to the show, and I still don't know what it is 6 episodes in. And I don't know, maybe that tie over is Daredevil. Maybe Daredevil is going to be like the way that She-Hulk gets woven into the rest of the MCU. That's how she gets, I don't know, inspired to be an Avenger. I don't know. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see, really, at this point. By the time I upload this, I edit and upload this, the series might be done. But I don't know. What were your thoughts on this episode? Let me know in the comments. I would ask like what your theories are, but I don't know if this will be up before the rest of the series is done. But if you want more of my thoughts on She-Hulk, make sure to check out our Hit Pause MCU podcast. I'm sure I will be talking about it there at some point. I did talk about it a little bit during our D23 episode where we were reacting to all the news that was coming out of D23 for Marvel Studios. And I am also guest on the Maclunkey Squadron podcast where I also talk more about She-Hulk, so you can go check out me on those episodes over there. I imagine I'm probably going to be on the same page with the rest of the guys on this episode in particular. I will still defend the show, but it's not going to be a great defense for this episode. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.